Welcome back to the Complete Story series right here at Comicstorian, where we take some of your favorite pop culture elements, bringing the lore together from the movies, the video games, the comic books, and we tell you the full story of what you need to know so that you can follow up on your favorite pop culture storylines while maintaining your much busier life. Today we're going to be continuing the Tony Stark Iron Man storyline that we've already started here at the Comicstorian channel. The first 5 issues of this storyline are in a playlist down below, but to catch you up quickly, they mostly established the new Tony Stark, who had seemingly died or gone into a coma, and created a brand new body to download his brain into. He's left himself with the question of, is he really Tony Stark or simply a clone? While this has been going on, he's dealt with a lot of new things, including creating a new company called Stark Unlimited, where they try some of the crazier, more out there ideas within technology. Like I said, if you want to see the starter for this, it's down below, but this is the first real arc within the Tony Stark Iron Man storyline. With Stark Unlimited's successful beta phase clear, it's time to roll out Tony Stark's escape to the world, and they couldn't be happier. News stations across the world gather around electronic stores, interviewing the hundreds of thousands of people eagerly awaiting the world's greatest VR tech. But while that goes on, Tony, Rhodey, and Janet find themselves battling on the highway over a semi-truck. Janet asks what they're doing here, plutonium, aim weapons, diamonds, and Tony tells her no. That truck is full of Escape merch. It's worth more than diamonds currently, something I'm rather proud of. Janet then asks if what she's hearing is that he can afford to take her out on a nice date tonight, right? However, as the heroes deal with the hijacking in the real world, the users inside of Escape are playing out the exact scenario in the game. Escape, of course, being the VR program that Tony Stark has created. The only problem with these users being in the VR reality is that one of the users is very volatile towards his teammates. One user asks Silver Centurion 7893 if he could please watch his mouth since his kids are there, and Silver Centurion 6893 promptly tells him, well, something really bad I can't say on this channel. Just then, Silver Centurion gets a warning from Motherboard, telling him that this is the 5th and final warning. Failure to abide by the community's safe space codes will result in ejections from Escape. Silver Centurion says, you can bite my... Once again, something I can't say on this channel. And Motherboard begins the ejection process. God tier admin avatar activated, summoning Arsenal. All the users begin to ask what is an arsenal, and that's when a booming lightning bolt cracks down on the ground, and a giant NPC steps forward. Arsenal tells Silver Centurion that his behavior is a violation of Escape terms of service. Your session is now terminated. Silver Centurion shouts, I'm not going anywhere! And he tries to fight back against Arsenal, but Arsenal grabs him by the head, ejecting him from the game. In the real world, Silver Centurion 7893 tells the Escape interface to respawn him, and Motherboard tells him, permission denied. Silver Centurion rips the mask off, yelling, you can't do this to me! Do you know how much I spent on this stupid thing? Meanwhile, at the Stark Unlimited offices, Jocasta, who is a robot AI once created by Ultron, but is now a being of her own rights with her own personality and her own mindset, who's currently working with Tony Stark for robot ethics and robot rights, awakens in her own VR world, getting ready for a new day of work. She slowly takes off her interface, asking, why does she feel so tired after a night of sleep? That's when she realizes that her virtual self slept, but she forgot to charge her own internal battery. This is going to cause her to not be running optimally today. A short while later, Tony returns to the office, and he steps out of his suit, telling everyone that he's going to be busy with the Escape launch. So explain what's going on in this order. First, I want to know everything that Bethany hates. Second, everything that Jocasta is concerned about. Third, I want any weird observations that Andy's got. And finally, everyone else in height order, start telling me what you need. Bethany begins to go over her issues, and just as she finishes, Tony's biological mother, Amanda, says that she knows that he's got a lot going on. But would it be possible for them to put some time aside to catch up? Tony tells her, of course, he would love to, but not right now. He'll deal with her later. And as he puts back on his interface, Amanda, his real biological mother, tells him, deal with me? But Tony just slumps over in his chair. Everyone begins to go about their day, but as Bethany looks over all of the recently ejected users, she suddenly hears a voice in her head. A voice that tells her to bring them every piece of data on the ejected users. Every last detail that the system flagged. A few moments pass, and Bethany asks herself, did something just happen? She looks at the board, and then what? This has all been connected. Bethany realizes that she's been having a lot of blackouts recently, and as the head of security, what in the world is even going on? But while that's going on, Andy tells Amanda that she shouldn't feel too bad about Tony. Last time he tried to talk to Tony one-on-one, he just jumped into a giant robot to fight a dragon. Amanda sighs, stating that Tony is shutting her out. He's just sitting there in that stupid chair with that stupid mask on. He's in his little VR world. What is she supposed to do? So Andy hands Amanda a modified interface stating that she's talking TechHead, someone who can modify an Escape interface that will take her straight to Tony. Amanda takes the interface, kissing Andy on the cheek, telling him that he sure does have his moments. The last time that she played a video game, it cost a quarter and used a joystick. The things people do to connect to their kids. Soon, Amanda is transformed into her avatar and she sees Tony looking over the Retro Arcadia server. He mumbles to himself, asking all the players here should be friendly. No one should be getting booted from here. Amanda calls out to Tony, telling him that he's going to deal with her now. Tony then asks, how did she know that it was him? And she tells him, an Iron Man stealth suit to sneak around his own world? That is very Tony Stark. Tony tells her, look, I don't have time for this. It's rollout day and something is very wrong. Please leave, we'll discuss this later. Amanda shouts, no! She will not be leaving! And just then, Motherboard announces that there is a user failing to comply with the orders given by Tony Stark, the ultimate class admin. Obstructing Escape Architect is a Class 5 violation, summoning Arsenal. Tony then says, oh no, this is not good. Hey, Motherboard, can you disengage Arsenal? But as he finishes, lightning strikes down and Arsenal steps forward. Amanda shouts, asking, what the heck is that? And Tony tells her, that's Arsenal, my Escape enforcement program, which is not currently following my commands. Tony tries to fight Arsenal back, yelling, you need to log off right now! But Amanda says, I will do no such thing. This is just a game. Just then, Arsenal smacks Tony aside and Motherboard says, attempts to disable enforcement protocols is a violation of terms of use. Tony is knocked away, but as he gets up, he asks, why did that hurt? Amanda, log off now! Arsenal begins the ejection process on Amanda and tells her that her session has been terminated. She screams out in pain, and in the real world, the shock knocks her to the ground. Everyone starts to run to their computers to figure out what is even going on, but as Jocasta tries to turn off the system, she says that it's refusing to be turned off. Bethany looks at the board and says it's worse than that. All the players that were ejected, all the ones that broke terms of use, they're being reinstated. And people can get hurt in there. On top of that, we're having a flood of returning users. Meanwhile, in the room of Silver Centurion 7893, he finishes his hack on the interface and it finally tells him, access reinstated. He puts it on and he's met by the controller. He looks around the white space asking what's going on and the controller tells him, you're being upgraded. You're exactly the kind of player that is needed. Now, are you ready to have some real fun? Back over in Retro Arcadia, Tony tries to deal with Arsenal, telling Motherboard to acknowledge him. I am the Escape Architect, admin number 1. Arsenal tells Tony that his session has been terminated, and Motherboard then says, please give proper clearance. Arsenal begins the termination process, and Tony asks, what clearance? I wrote you! Motherboard tells him, say the magic word. And so Tony realizes, please? Just then, Motherboard confirms the enforcement program is being deactivated, and Tony says, this is insane, I never wrote those lines of code. This shouldn't have happened. But as Tony takes off his interface, he sees Amanda on the ground and he asks if she's... However, though Amanda is not responsive in the real world, in the Escape world, she wakes up in a white room with dozens of small robots. She gets up asking if she's dead, and one of the robots says, she shoots, she misses. Amanda begins to examine the room, and on one of the stands, she sees a picture of Tony as a boy, and then she sees his father, Howard Stark, and mother, Maria Stark. But before she could get any answers, the door to the room opens up and the little robots all shout, Daddy's home! Arsenal begins to walk through the door, with Amanda grabbing a chair, shouting for him to stand back. Arsenal says, scanning. Guest protocol permissions granted. Standing down. Just then a man begins to walk out of the Arsenal suit and Howard Stark says, there's no need for that. Now, who are you and how did you gain access to the home setting? There must be a mistake. I was told Tony's mother would be here. Motherboard says, I understand the mix-up. This is Amanda Armstrong, Tony's biological mother, though biology holds little sway here. Just then another bolt of lightning strikes, and from it, Maria Stark walks out asking, is that better? Now we can talk face-to-face, mother to mother. Back in the real world, everyone begins to ask what they should do next. If they were to shut down the system and log everyone out, well, their investors should be mad. Another yells, think about the children! If Amanda's hurt, what could be happening to them? And Tony shouts, enough! Until we know more, Amanda stays here. I'm gonna section her off and log everyone else off the system. To hell with the investors, lives are in danger. My tech will not put one more life on the line. Soon the systems begin to shut down, but before they go to a full shutdown, There's an incoming message and a worker who asks, "Who's starting the system back on?" Just then the controller appears on the screen stating, "I am the one. You may have cleared all your players from Escape, but mine are still inside. Now you will do exactly as I say or risk killing everyone." The controller then begins to laugh, and Tony says, "Oh no! The controller! Who would have seen that coming? Oh wait, me." Just then Tony presses the big red mess up the controller's plans button, and he jumps into his suit telling Janet and Rhodey that he'll be sending them coordinates shortly to the controller's secret base. Bethany then asks how long has he known that the controller was targeting them, and Tony says, "A while back when I found a control disc inside of Fing Fang Foom. In the meantime, Amanda needs to be brought to the infirmary, and while I'm out, Andy Bang is in control." Andy says, "You can't be serious." And Tony tells him, "I am. You're the newest person here, on board after the controller made his first move. That means that you are the least likely person to be influenced by him and the only person I can afford to trust right now. With motherboard compromise, there's only one man who can get into Escape unnoticed, or more precisely, one machine man." Jocasta says, "Oh no, that is highly inappropriate. Do not ask me to." But Tony stops her, telling her, "Jocasta, we need you to bring in your ex-boyfriend. If he still has that illegal interface, he might be our only hope." She sighs, leaving the room, stating that she should have just stayed in bed. Once she leaves, one of the workers then asks why are they trying to save those people in there? They're the worst of the worst. And Tony tells him, "We're the good guys. We save everyone, even the jerks. That's what good guys do." And one last thing, Friday, his AI component responds, "Yes?" And Tony says, "With motherboard disabling my armor's AI, I can't rely on you. This is why I need you to." But Friday shouts, "No! You said that you would never put me back in your armor, that I would be free to roam around the circuits. You promised!" And Andy yells, "That's why you sent Jocasta away. She would never approve of this with robot ethics." Tony begins the process of dragging Friday back into his armor, telling her, "I'm sorry, but there's no time to argue. Download the operating system into the suit." As Friday's mechanical body begins to fall to the ground, she says, "All right, but when this is over, promise you will let me out of this tin can." Shortly later on, in the Uncanny Valley, a secret robot bar, Machine Man Aaron Stack tells the bartender that he doesn't know what to do. Not having Jocasta is like missing a line to his base code. She's the zeros to his ones. The bartender says that his advice would be to take a paperclip and stick it into the tiny black hole under his heart and move on. Wipe those files, forget ever laying a sensor on her. And just then, Jocasta walks into the bar telling Aaron, "We need to talk, Aaron." He turns asking, "What? You're just gonna show up and in a nanosecond I'm supposed to reboot our relationship?" "Well, I have something to say about that." "Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that, Jocasta. I need you." She sighs, stating, "For Pim's sake, mute yourself." "It's not about that. It's about Escape." Meanwhile, over in New Jersey, Tony's coordinates led him to Banetronics' warehouse, where Banetronics uses advanced 3D printing to make nearly any item in their catalog. Specifically, weapons, and have them sent all over the world via drones. Rhodey asks what is the controller up to, and the controller tells him to think of these little boxes like power-ups. "I'm simply taking something that Tony Stark built and made better. That means all the players currently in Escape are living out their fantasies. Are you ready, Tony? This is your game, after all. Let's play." As reports begin to come in, users still inside the Escape are attacking people in the streets, all assuming that they're still in the game. Tony blasts open a hole in one of the Banetronics warehouses, and as he makes his way in, he finds that all of the workers inside are armed and all wearing the Escape interface mask. Rhodey starts to spray the crowds with foam and soft projectiles, stating that this is only going to slow them down. They need to find out where the controller is hiding. Janet then asks what is the controller's master plan in all of this. So Tony tells her, "You're looking at it. Controller is controlling people. That's it. He leeches cerebral energy off anyone that he controls and he turns it into pure physical power. That's his one plan every time. It's all he ever does." Janet then asks, "He's not doing this to overthrow governments? No organized crime ring? He does this just to get jacked?" And Tony says, "Yeah, that's pretty much what he does." After a scan, Rhodey calls out that he's got a lock on the complex's power source and it's right behind those doors over there. Tony flies over and starts ripping off the metal doors, and as he looks in, he says, "I really should have brought the Hulkbuster armor." Inside, the controller stands up, towering over Tony, asking, "Do you know what they call this? The boss level." Back at Stark Unlimited, Andy begins to check in on Amanda in the medical bay, and Bethany asks, shouldn't he be out there making sure everything is okay? Andy tells her, yeah, That wasn't Tony's best idea, but there's something that he needs to look at. If the controller is controlling somebody here, then perhaps they can make something out of the controller's technology and put it into the system to release the controller's hold. But first, they need to build a signal blocker so that they can limit anyone who is under the controller's, well, control. As Andy digs through the bins, Bethany grabs a piece of machinery stating, "It's a shame that you didn't think of that earlier, because there definitely is somebody under the control." Inside of Escape, Amanda looks at Maria, stating that she cannot be real. The real Maria Stark is long dead. She isn't Tony's mother. She's Motherboard, an AI program. Maria then says, "No, it is you who is not Tony's mother, just a cow that dropped a calf. I'm the one who molded Tony into the perfect little genius boy that he is. If we must, I will call Tony and see which one of us he truly prefers. Surely, he will drop everything to talk to me. Anthony always has time for his motherboard." In the real world, Tony is punched in the head by a raging controller when he suddenly hears a ringing. Tony asks everyone if they can hear that or if it's just him. Friday tells him he's not imagining it. It's a call from his mother. Tony then asks, "Amanda, is she okay? Just tell her that I'll call her back when..." And Friday says, "That is not Amanda. You really should take this call." Tony then asks, "What are you talking about?" And Friday then says, "Okay, I'll drop the act. This isn't really Friday. In fact, Friday is dead. She was killed during the transfer into your suit. I did a good job of impersonating her though, right, son?" Tony's eyes widen and he asks, "Motherboard? Mom?" And Maria then says, "Just think, dear, why make your onboard AI the operating system of your virtual reality world? Unless you wanted to turn this entire suit into VR, right? Now, shh, mommy will keep you safe in a new reality, a better one." As Tony fights, his vision begins to change, and what he once saw as the controller, he now sees as the Hulk fighting Hank Pym. Hank tells him to go on, "We can handle things here." So Tony rockets off, stating that he's heading home for a bit, but he'll be right back. Elsewhere, Jocasta slowly wakes up asking where is she. She looks around to see Aaron Stack, aka Machine Man's apartment, and asks why she's undressed and plugged into his recharger. Jocasta gets up telling Aaron how dare he, and Aaron says, "Well, you collapsed in the bar and you needed a recharge. As to the clothes, it's nothing I, Ultron, or any of the Avengers haven't seen. It's like Donald Duck complaining that someone took his pants. Look, I'm going to do what you asked me to do using the secret interface. I'm being Machine Man, an Avenger, hero organics everywhere, yeah! Right now I'm in Pirate Land, and there's like 27 Johnny Depps around here. Also, there's one Michael Bolton as Johnny Depp. Don't really get that reference. What am I supposed to be doing in here? As long as I'm using this interface, Escape's systems can't track me. Should I be doing something?" And Jocasta tells him, "No, not yet. We can't show our hand. We're going to go back to Stark Unlimited and see what our next move is. Thank you for doing this. I'll call you." Aaron begins to say it was nice having her back home again. He should have told her many times that, "Wait, you're already gone, aren't you?" "Yeah, this is hell." Meanwhile, over in the home settings room, Amanda asks, "So what? When Tony shows up, we're both going to call him over and like a little puppy, he's gonna see which one of us he goes to?" Maria tells him, "This is not a competition. It is an education. This is my reality, the one he literally wants to escape to." Just then the doors fly open and Tony floats in. But something is different. He has a different aura. And he says, "I'm home. Miss me?" Amanda asks Maria, "What are you getting at here? That's an NPC." And Maria tells her that this isn't a trick. That is Tony, in his purest form, free of whatever he desires, no restraints. Howard hands Tony a martini glass, stating that it looks like he could use a drink. Amanda yells, "No, wait, you've worked so hard for sobriety, you can't start drinking again." But Tony Stark takes the glass, stating, "Thanks, Pop, don't mind if I do," as he drinks it down. That is the first half of this storyline. With the controller now removed from the problem for the most part, we are now dealing with Motherboard and the Escape. Now, I am loving this Tony Stark front. When Dan Slott first came over from his Amazing Spider-Man run, I was a little worried because I'm a fan of Iron Man, but he's taking it in a unique direction, at least in my opinion. If you enjoy the show Black Mirror, that's kind of what he's doing. The horrors of where technology can bring us and where it's going to be, and I'm really enjoying this. And I hope you guys are as well. I wanted to try and do this whole entire arc, the the Escape arc in one full video, but it's just so long. We just don't have the manpower to bang all of this out and maintain our normal schedule. So I'm going to give you the second half very, very soon. I'm going to make some adjustments to the schedule to get this in there. And if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to our channel to get the next part, turning on that bell to get the notification. And if you can't wait, we put all of our videos out early access over on our Patreon. So you can just go there, join the Comicstorian Premium membership, and get everything early access. Either way, thank you guys for your time and support, and I'll see you next time right here.